Good morning, everybody. We will kick off today's meeting at 9:05. This is the 858th round of the Planning and Regulation Committee. We'll kick off with attendance and apologies, and we've got our full cohort of committee members and a couple of visitors here with us today. Good morning, everybody. No leave of absence to deal with. We'll go to item 3, which is the reception of the minutes from the previous round, which is round 857. Do I have anyone that needs to raise any issues or clarifications from the minutes from the previous round? In that case, we'd seek a mover for the minutes of 857. Councillor Doran, seconder. Councillor O'Neill. All those in favour? Minutes of the previous meeting resolved. Councillors, I'm not aware of any conflict of interest declarations to be dealt with beforehand. Can I just check for the public record that no one wishes to raise one? Councillor Gates.
Chairman, just in advance of the item on appeals today, I wanted to raise the fact that I've been through it thoroughly, and there are 4 occasions where I did receive donations, but well outside of the relevant term. So because there is no decision to be made today, it's just a report of information to us. I had not thought I would make a declaration unless someone on the committee believes that that's necessary.
Yeah, Councillor, so that is the standard position we've taken the last 3 times as items come through now, is that as we're only noting a report and there's no decision of council, and it's simply that consultants are mentioned in a report either working for council or for an applicant, I definitely don't feel there's any need for conflicts to be raised on that matter. Can I just check for the public record that no one else disagrees or has a question for Councillor Gates? Councillor Gates, if you're happy to leave it at that for now. Councillor Fowler, Councillor Young, I think we'll do the same thing now with yours as well. So Councillor Fowler first.
Thank you, Chair. The same item in regards to the quarterly appeals coming up. So I do have a current declarable conflict that Council has already voted on, which allows me to, when there's not a approval happening, so when we're discussing the item, to be part of that conversation and communicate that with residents, any non-confidential information. So for that reason, I won't be making another declaration today.
Thank you for airing that again, Councillor Fowler. And again, for the public record, no councillor wishes to raise a question or concern with that. Very good. Councillor Young, same for you.
Yes, thanks, Chairman. I don't have the date of the previous declaration, but in regard to the New Crush appeal, which is listed in the document that we're dealing with today, just for noting, I think, I have previously declared a conflict of interest in that I live on a property that's in reasonably close proximity to the New Crush quarry. There's no other matter to declare in regard to that, and previously council's consented to me participating and voting on relevant matters. Thanks, Chair.
Again, for the public record, I'll just check that no councillor has a question or concern with Councillor Young's airing of that conflict. Very good. And just so we've got that there again for clarity for anyone watching, the item which was being referred to by Councillor Gates, Councillor Fowler and Councillor Young was item 6.4, the quarterly appeals update. There's simply an update of all active appeals inside the city, and in noting the report, there's no active decision making occurring here today, hence the reason why conflicts of interest shouldn't be required in this instance. Councillors, we'll move to start items. Councillor Doran, would you like to open up 6.2?
Yes, please. And I've got a question on 5.1, if possible.
You do love a question on the forward planning schedule.
I do like a question on the forward planning.
So that's 5.1 and 6.2 opens. Councillor Gates?
I have a question on 6.4.
Trifecta.
Let's keep the run going. So we have no start items to deal with. In that case, we will go to item 5.1, the committee forward planning schedule. Councillor Doran, your question?
Thank you. Just in relation to the September agenda, we're being brought back the regulatory approach to election signage. I was wondering if it was the intention of office to give the committee members a briefing before we get to that. It's quite an impactful agenda item. I wouldn't mind having opportunity if that was the intent.
Through the Chair, Councillor, the intent of the department is actually to potentially delay that particular item and request that that's pushed out primarily to make sure that we've got all the required information, including legal advice.
Okay. Could that request for maybe a briefing before it comes back to full council, for myself anyway,
I think so. Especially, Luke, if we're pushing it out, I think an invitation to any councillor seeking a briefing can go with that, please.
Absolutely.
Councillors, any other questions on item 5.1? In that case, Councillor Young is happy to move it. Councillor Doran's happy to second. All those in favour? The 5.1 is dealt with. That takes us to item 6.1. We welcome officers. And we welcome Councillor Marshall. Don't try and sneak in here like that. Let the minutes reflect that we appreciate that Matt Warner is once again on point with his suit and chamber.
No comment. Thank you. Through the chair, good morning, councillors. Thanks for having us here this morning to present the Safety Camera Network 10-year plan. Presenting today will be myself, Anna Rainbow, our Coordinator Community Safety, and Katrina Midler, one of our project managers in the Safety Camera Network. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. Alrighty. So you'll recall, councillors, in July 2024, the City Inspectorate presented an update on the mobile CCTV program. A key resolution from that report was to develop a 10-year strategic plan for the Safety Camera Network to guide our future operations, priorities, and sustainable and evidence-driven expansion. So the team have done some great work over the last 12 months to develop that, and we're here to present that to you today. Also on top of that, we just wanted to give you a very quick overview of the current CCTV networks across our city, and then some further opportunities that we're looking to deliver to enhance these networks in the name of public safety. So as you can see on the screen in front of you there, we have several networks, camera networks across our city. Firstly, you're aware of the Safety Camera Network, a range of safety cameras in our public spaces to help detect crime and antisocial behaviour. The city also manages a protective security network. This is a range of CCTV cameras in our city facilities to help with the protection of our customers, our staff, our elected members, as well as our assets. So these cameras are included in places like libraries, Hotter Home of the Arts, our waste and recycling centres, city administration buildings, and more. We also have the Transport Operations Network. So this is a joint City and Department of Transport and Made Roads network of cameras on our local government roads from a road safety and a traffic congestion perspective. And those also monitor some of our flood gauges as well. It's important to note, councillors, that all three of those networks are directly linked into our Disaster and Emergency Management Centre. So at any time we can operate those cameras from the Disaster and Emergency Management Centre to support the local Disaster Coordination Centre during an emergency, a disaster, or with some of our planning. On top of that, councillors, we also have some external networks to the city. So QPS have their DTAC, District Tasking and Coordination Centre, where they have access to our cameras and other cameras from across the city to support their daily operations. And also TMR have their Traffic Management Centre with a range of state-controlled road and local government-controlled road cameras from a road safety perspective, as well as a traffic congestion and other uses. So councillors, we just wanted to identify these because while we're delivering the 10-year plan from an expansion perspective, we also want to look at some further opportunities at how we can best utilise this technology and these cameras to support community safety. So very quickly, I'll run you through 10 proposed actions that we want to look at moving forward. The first one under detection there is a 10-year plan, which the team will talk about in a minute. The second action there is to develop a strategic licence plate recognition plan with Transport Made Roads as well as QPS. And what we want to do with this action is look at where are the key sites we need licence plate recognition into the future from our hooning perspective, a stolen car perspective, or potentially key ingress or egress points into the city where people may be coming into our local government to commit a crime. We want to work with police to look at where are those key spots and then how can we collectively work on implementing those cameras in the future. The third action there is to look at installing CCTV at our leased community facilities. So as you'd be aware, we have about 400 leased facilities across the city for sports, recreation and commercial use. We see an opportunity, and we've engaged with our sports and recreation team, when we have future new builds or upgrades, we could install CCTV cameras there to help deter any crime or antisocial behaviour, or potentially help capture incidents to support police with their response. We believe this would really add value to those centres which are highly activated and have some of our great community groups at those locations. The fourth one there, councillors, is re-establishing a Gold Coast CCTV steering group. Now, this did exist leading up to the Commonwealth Games. With the Olympics coming in a few years, we'd like to re-establish that this year and get together with TMR, QPS, G-Link and any other key stakeholders to talk about opportunities across our networks, look at the new and the latest technology, and look at how we can support police in their day-to-day operations collectively. Under the response, there are 3 actions there we'll continue to look at. The first one is the City Joint Operations Centre project. So this project is looking at looking at centralising 24/7 operational city capabilities across the city into a purpose-built facility within our disaster and emergency management complex. So this will give us the ability to co-locate and bring together disaster and emergency management functions, security functions, compliance functions, community resilience, after-hour customer contact, and more. So this is a site that can really bring together some of these key areas and help us integrate our response, again, to support the community from a community safety perspective and a disaster and emergency management perspective. That project's currently in the detailed design phase. Also under the response is continuing to work with police around information sharing and continue to work with them around live tracking and coordination. So the team already do a fantastic job in this space. We give our CCTV links and videos out to various QPS police stations across the city, as well as have the ability to live track, live coordinate with police when there is an issue on the ground. We're doing some great work in that space, but we want to continue to partner with the police, TMR, G-Link and any other stakeholders to look at how we can continue to make sure we're adding value and support this from a crime and antisocial behaviour perspective. Finally, councillors, under the technology stream there, we want to continue to look at overt and covert camera technology to support compliance operations. So as you would know, we do use various camera technology to support things like parking, illegal dumping and other activities. There is some good opportunity moving forward in the future to look at AI and other technology to help us with our compliance functions. All of this will be completed, of course, within our legislative boundaries. So all of this considers the Information Act, the Right to Information Act, the Evidence Act, and the team, whenever we make any changes to the program or we want to look to make changes, we always engage with the Office of the Information Commissioner to gain advice as well. Last 2 from me, the NBN Smart Trials is a really good new technology we're currently piloting and want to pilot across multiple projects. You'd be aware that the safety camera network is heavily reliant on optical fibre connection to give us the best quality and the best value for money. This NBN Smart Trial gives us a technology where we can connect these cameras off the optical fibre network and give us a good level of quality. So we want to look at that, and that really helps us where we are trying to expand where there's locations that are not close to fibre connection. And finally, down the bottom there is continuing to look at any new camera technology that would come up through the market and how that can best be implemented to support our compliance activities or support police with their response. Again, the team are always looking at the best practice cameras and technology within the safety camera network room, and we want to continue to look at that new camera technology moving forward. So a lot of information there, councillors, but really we just want to identify we are continuing to look to keep this safety camera network and our other networks best practice across Australia. And I'll throw it down.
Thank you, Matt. Through the chair. Good morning. There we go. So the Safety Camera Network 10-year plan, which is the key focus of our presentation today, essentially this is a critical piece of work that sets out and guides the growth of the Safety Camera Network over the coming 10 years. The program has been developed based on evidence and crime data, a lot of consultation with key stakeholders, and essentially is a strategic approach to guide our future expansion through a capital works schedule. The Safety Camera Network originally commenced operations around 25 years ago in Surfers Paradise with a small number of cameras to respond to alcohol-fuelled violence. Since that time, the network's grown significantly, firstly expanding to other entertainment areas and late night activity areas, and more recently in the last 10 years to urban village growth areas such as Burleigh Heads, Nobby Beach, Varsity Lakes, Nerang, and also through our large mobile CCTV program to address emerging issues citywide. The 2018 Commonwealth Games saw a huge boost in terms of network growth. So at that time, there were around 370 cameras as part of the program. Today, we see almost 900 cameras in our public spaces citywide. The forward plan also coordinates with key city infrastructure projects through permanent infrastructure, and we're also looking at making sure we support our key major events coming up through the development of this plan, in particular the 2032 Games. Just a brief snapshot of where we are today and sort of the key operations of the program. We generally break the program down into 4 different areas. So entertainment precincts, that's where we have 500 plus of the 900 cameras. We see about 95% of the incidents captured in those areas just due to the high activity, late night entertainment activity, and higher levels of crime. We also have the Urban Villages program, which is a key focus of the 10-year plan, so expanding into those growth areas of the city. The SCN also has cameras in most of the city's major skate parks, and we also have a very large mobile program, one of the largest of a local government in Australia, and that's the 56 units that are able to be rapidly redeployed as needed right across the city. The SCN's control room operates every day of the year, 24/7. We have licensed operators in the room proactively monitoring cameras. This is where we see some immediate safety results in terms of our live communication and partnership with police, where we can facilitate immediate response to incidents and we see immediate benefit for public safety. The SCN provides live feeds to key police facilities, as Matt talked through, the District Tasking and Coordination Centre and key police stations, as well as the Disaster and Emergency Management Centre. And essentially overall, this program is a key piece of our community safety portfolio. At the Safer Suburbs Forum, QPS regularly recognise the program and the partnership and the way that it assists in their immediate response to incidents, evidence capture, and as well as investigations and prosecution.
Through the Chair. 6 guiding principles were developed to inform prioritisation of sites for permanent safety camera network enhancement and expansion. Growth in highly public activated spaces to respond to higher volumes of crime and where CCTV is most effective. For example, locations where an immediate police response can be facilitated, such as entertainment precincts. Expansion via permanent infrastructure, including permanent power and fibre optic communications. We've also prioritised upgrading existing sites using end-of-life technologies and infrastructure, unreliable connectivity to increase efficiencies and sustainability. Value for money and project coordination to maximise opportunities, such as leveraging other City Capital Works projects at locations identified for CCTV installation and upgrades to reduce time taken and overall cost of SCM project delivery. Evidence-based and data-driven expansion to ensure best allocation and use of SCM resources. We have identified areas with demonstrated high rates of crime and antisocial behaviour. And the final principle is adherence to information privacy principles. We engaged with multiple city stakeholders, including the Chief Technology Office, Infrastructure Gold Coast and the 2032 Games Coordination Team to discuss project locations, feasibility and timeframes. Future open space development sites were assessed to identify areas of emerging growth and potential future areas of high public activation. Comparative reported crime data was assessed to determine the rate of reported crime per 100,000 people for each QPS division within the city. The top 4 police divisions with the highest rate of crime aligned with the Entertainment Precincts program, being Surfers Paradise, Southport, Broadbeach and Coolangatta, indicating higher safety needs. An online survey was developed and distributed to all Gold Coast QPS divisions to capture information about which public spaces would benefit from CCTV installation and monitoring from a policing perspective. And of the 46 locations identified, 67% were located within entertainment areas, including Surfers Paradise, Main Beach, Southport and Burleigh Heads. We reviewed incidents captured by the existing permanent CCTV network. CCTV effectiveness of mobile CC deployments was also assessed. All locations were assessed under the SCM permanent CCTV camera feasibility and needs assessment procedure to determine whether CCTV would be both beneficial and technically achievable at each location. Please note the presentation attached to this item originally stated 44 projects. We've updated this to 45. Of these, 21 projects are upgrades to the existing SCN network. 24 involve new CCTV locations. The SCN currently utilises licence plate recognition at strategic locations within our entertainment precincts to assist in identification of vehicles of interest and enhance tracking capabilities. The LPR network, licence plate recognition, will be expanded in 2 stages at key road corridors across the city during the plan. We recommend extension of the current mobile CCTV contracted service, which includes 56 units, or 4 per division, until 2031. The current mobile CCTV fleet is functioning effectively and services the amount of community requests received through the annual proactive schedule program. The first anti-hooning mobile CCTV trailer was introduced to the SCN fleet in 2021, with a second added in 2024 just recently. The trailers are designed to support police response to hooning, and minimal requests have been received from police, with most deployment locations determined via community requests. So we're proposing to continue use of both trailers, which are currently hired until June 2026 until 2031. And finally, the SCN continually investigates and trials new technologies, and this research and development will continue to be prioritised, and along with continued support to QPS.
Thanks, Kat. Through the chair, just to finish off, councillors, in terms of governance of this 10-year plan, as you'd be aware in the report, we are highly dependent on other capital works projects in terms of when we can schedule in these projects into the future, as well as our surf network expansion as well. So any changes to those projects, we will engage with our internal stakeholders to look at how we realign things within the 10-year plan. We will be completing an annual review of the locations identified. So through our QPS partnering meetings, we'll work with them and other stakeholders to look at any new sites that might be identified over the coming years, incorporate those into the plan. In terms of updates, we are recommending to update the Mayor's Safer Suburbs Forum regularly on the 10-year plan and our expansion, and each divisional councillor will receive continual updates on any projects in your area or any changes to projects in your area, very much like you get with your mobile program updates at the moment. And from a finance perspective, councillors, the 10-year plan will be delivered through existing capital works funds, and any changes to operational funds or capital works funds will be brought through the existing budget process. Also, councillors, I just wanted to highlight the $500,000 commitment from the state government to the Burleigh Heads precinct, which has helped identify and deliver some of those cameras in the Burleigh Heads region over the next 4 to 5 years. Thank you, Chair.
I think I had Councillor Doran for a question first and Councillor Gates. Councillor Gates, over to you.
Thanks very much. I'm interested as far as Coomera is concerned. It has listed here an item at the Upper Coomera Adventure Parklands, and through you, Chair, we have a park under development at the moment called, and somehow we need to probably address the naming of the park because it's called the Coomera Adventure Parklands. Pretty confusing to have an Upper Coomera Adventure Parklands and a Coomera Adventure Parklands, but it was named when I wasn't the representative, and there was probably a lack of awareness of the other one. The Upper Coomera one was established 20 years ago or so, and it's likely that it will need renewal entirely before we get to 2031 or 2032. My interest and my question is, was CCTV to be installed at the 2 new parks in Coomera that we have under construction, both at $12 million each, Viney Park and the Coomera Adventure Parklands? Is CCTV built into the design of those because they both have skate parks, and I would have thought they would be a priority to protect our new infrastructure? I also had a query about Tallowood Park at Upper Coomera, where we have ongoing vandalism every week with bikes going through. And I note on the consultation list, it doesn't appear that Parks Maintenance were consulted. I see that QPS have been consulted widely, but often we don't or can't report the sort of damage that is occurring in our parks because there's no evidence of who the culprit is and there's no camera to catch them. So I'm just wondering about the omission of things like that. So that's three that I'm a little concerned about that don't appear anywhere on the forward plan. And I just wondered, had they been considered, or if you could find out for me if CCTV is already being proposed in the two, one at Viney Park and one at Coomera Adventure Parklands, where we're spending millions of ratepayers' dollars, and one would hope there would be some overview of the new assets that are going in, and especially the skate parks.
Thank you. Through the Chair. Councillor, thank you for the question. Many of those locations you've mentioned are definitely, I guess, being considered, and as part of our planning, quite often we're involved in the design process for these projects, and we put future provisioning infrastructure into these locations, even if we don't have the actual connections to operate cameras at the current time. So that's definitely the case for Viney Park. We have been a stakeholder as part of that project. And at the current time, there's no fibre communication availability there, which is meaning it's not a viable site today. However, we are part of those projects in terms of future provisioning for such time as when a fibre connection does become available. Viney Park, we do have some plans to upgrade existing visibility there through the project upgrades. In terms of the Upper Coomera Adventure Parklands, it's similar. We've serviced it obviously with mobile CCTV as well as permanent, but there again it's earmarked for an uplift in future when we have a fibre communications connection available.
Sorry, do you mean Coomera, not Upper Coomera?
The Upper Coomera Adventure Parklands, we currently have permanent cameras, but earmarked to link that to fibre connection.
Okay.
Tallow Wood Park also came across for review. It's one we would propose to service with mobile CCTV, just because when we've assessed the needs right across the city, it wasn't a site that met the criteria that we're able to service with permanent infrastructure at this stage.
Okay, we just had 11 books thrown into the lake there out of the little library that was established there. It's so disheartening when it was the first week it had been there, and there's a lot of vandalism happening. So I don't know, maybe we can look at some covert cameras or for a little period of time to try and halt that.
Can we just confirm, so I think in amongst that, the confusion between Upper Coomera and what I call Kirk and Adventure Parklands, to remove the confusion, so the Kirkin would be the same thing, there's no fibre optic there, I'm guessing, because that's the same as Dixon just down the road coming up to, that there's no fibre optic available yet?
Correct, thank you.
Yep.
Perhaps we can raise in general business a change to the name of the Coomera Adventure Parklands, because it's going to be very confusing having a Coomera Adventure Parklands, and or maybe I need to raise it at full council, but I think it would make sense to provide a different name from the Upper Coomera Adventure Parkland. It's very confusing.
Councillor Fowler, then Councillor Gates, and Councillor Young, then Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, can I please ask City officers to clarify what criteria define as an area as an urban village? So under the Safety Camera Network program, what are the defining characteristics? So is it based around population density or land use activity types, and what's considered when we designate those more emerging areas?
Through the Chair, thank you, Councillor. Yes, the program categories essentially are driven through history and growth of the network. So initially we had the 4 entertainment precincts only for quite some time. As the network started to expand, we started to incorporate urban village areas which historically only had mobile data connection. We've essentially grouped all of those areas outside of the 4 key entertainment precincts as urban villages. Essentially, it's a category that was our growth areas, essentially. A lot of those historically didn't have permanent fibre connections, and that's where we've got to focus in this plan to look at uplifting some of those existing sites and expanding to new sites.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I have a follow-up if that's okay.
Do you mind first? I don't really necessarily feel like that was answered particularly clearly. So is there a set of criteria that determine what is an urban village and what isn't an urban village? A black and white set of criteria that could be provided to councillors?
Yes, Chair. So essentially anything outside of out of the 4 entertainment precincts, if it's not a skate park, it's an urban village.
That's definitely a fairly broad definition. Councillor Fowler, your follow-up question?
Yes, following that response, I guess I'm just interested to know if there is then, if everything is an urban village, what is the mechanism in place for when an urban village can be recategorised as an entertainment precinct? Is it that we look at the growth of a nighttime economy or incidents reported? Is there any metrics or criteria around that, please?
Thank you, through the Chair. Essentially, we have the ability to upgrade a site to call it an entertainment precinct when it has, I guess, that category of growth that reflects the concentration of activity and the number of linked cameras in a precinct. Urban villages, again, have traditionally been called that because they're growing new activity areas and much smaller, whereas Surfers Paradise, Broadbeach, Southport and Coolangatta have 50 plus cameras all linked, which really facilitates that live monitoring and intervention. Burleigh Heads obviously is a precinct that through this plan will grow to a similar size as Coolangatta, so it essentially could be categorised as an entertainment precinct. It doesn't change the level of service or any way that we operate the cameras or manage those sites. It's more a classification historically of how we manage the program and collect data.
I think Councillor Fowler, for us councillors who represent non-coastal strip areas and have got the suburbs and other areas, like what would be a future trigger point that might say an area in Helensvale that currently doesn't meet urban village and doesn't have cameras in it, if there was additional restaurants or additional bars going to an area and there was more nighttime activity, that may be the trigger point to see it reviewed in the program to include cameras into it. I think Councillor Fowler, is that kind of where you're getting to with it, or is what's the trigger that might say an area that doesn't have cameras at the moment? I think like Churn Park and that little section in there, that's got good little activation at night time. Was there a trigger point that said it didn't have cameras? Now there's enough nighttime activity happening. Maybe there was a few things reported to QPS, and that's what triggers it to have cameras installed. Is that kind of the thinking?
Through the Chair, yeah, that would be the thinking. So crime data, engagement with QPS to identify the need for cameras there to support their response would trigger that, definitely.
So possibly in a future iteration of this, an update to the criteria what urban village is, because I think anything outside of a skate park's maybe a little bit too broad, maybe a little bit more criteria of what meets urban village or whatever we're going to call it.
Yeah, acknowledge, we can do that.
Councillor Fowler, do you have another question?
No, Chair, that's it. That's clear. So it was interesting to hear the definition of an urban village or an entertainment precinct was more based on our CCTV numbers and response rather than in my mind, it would be based on crime, foot traffic, nighttime economy, that sort of thinking. So, interesting to hear the response. Thank you.
Councillor Young, you're up next.
I just want to ask a question about the table 1 on page 44, please. This shows the safety camera network cameras by divisions and program, and so I'm just asking about the column called mobile. It's indicating 16 mobile camera assets per division. I'm not sure if that means individual cameras or the units themselves that are deployed.
Yeah, through the Chair. Yeah, so there's 4 units per division, each with 4 cameras, which equals a 16 number. So just so you're all aware, with the mobile units that are deployed, we have 4 cameras on each of those to give us full 360-degree view of the area, hence why we've got 16 there.
I think that's a bit of a misrepresentation. It really makes it look impressive, but I'll leave it at that.
I don't disagree, Councillor Young. It could easily just say 56 and reflect what it said everywhere else in the report. We'll have another column that says 56 and then 224 next to it, but I appreciate the comment. Did you have another question, Councillor Young? Councillor Marshall, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And this is probably, and through you, a question for Matt. I'm a real big fan of obviously the mobile cameras, but I wonder, there's people in the community that will say to me, oh, you're just getting pretty pictures of people doing the wrong thing. So I wonder if you could explain, and we had a briefing about this, what happens, where the images go, and I guess that process, so the community has an understanding of how it works.
Yeah, good. Through the chair. Thank you, Councillor Marshall. So the mobile cameras, like all of our cameras, are streamed live back to our Safety Camera Network operations room 24/7. We have 3 qualified security operators who work behind those cameras 24 hours a day. They are live tracking and monitoring each of those cameras and sites, and in continual conversation and communication with the police. So if there are any incidents captured on those sites, they can be documented and the footage stored, or if we get a call from police or we identify anything proactively, we can engage police to provide a response, pending adequate resourcing as well.
I guess just to follow up on that one is hypothetically, someone got elbowed by an old man in a park that was caught on a camera. What would be the process for someone in the community to be able to say, can I gain that footage, and what's available, what's not available?
Yeah, through the chair, footage can be requested through our right to information process on the city's website. Thank you.
Councillor Martin and then Councillor Doran.
Thanks, Chair. Just a question on our table 1 on page 44. Those numbers are as it stands right now. Is that correct? So, would it be possible once this program for the 10-year program is complete, what those numbers would be taken to? I'm not sure it's in the report, but would love that to be circulated.
Through the chair, yeah, we can take that on notice and circulate those numbers.
Thank you. And just in relation to, I found that it was a question that I was keen to talk about today about entertainment precincts and designation. So thank you for those responses through Councillor Fowler. So Burleigh Heads for me is the obvious one, noting it ticks a lot of boxes there. So would it be the view of officers that if Burleigh Heads was, let's call it, entertainment precinct, would that sit comfortably in your minds as an entertainment precinct? Are there any reasons why that it shouldn't be?
Through the chair, I think we've had some good feedback to get some more clear criteria around these different programs. So I'd like to do some work around establishing that key criteria and then being able to answer your question. As Anna was saying, those different programs have been set up internally and they really help us to support with our data collection and some of our communication. But I do acknowledge that there is some confusion there with some of the language. So yeah, I'd like to clarify that and then be able to answer your question at a future date.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to query the steering group suggestion, Matt. Is that a duplication of the work that the Safer Suburbs Forum does or can do?
Through the chair, no, we don't have all the representatives from that steering committee on the Mayor's Safer Suburbs Forum at this point in time. So this would be a chance where we can get the key players from each of those organisations together for a CCTV perspective.
Okay. And just while we're on the Safer Suburbs Forum, you indicate in the report here that you will do regular reporting back through that forum. I'm wondering, there's only a few councillors on that. I'm wondering if there's, we don't, Councillor Fowler sent an email around after one of the emails, but after one of the meetings, but we don't tend to get that feedback. Is that, I'm wondering if there's a better way to distribute that so we can be kept abreast of updates?
Through the chair, yeah, good question, and yes, definitely acknowledge there's only so many councillors on the Mayor's Safer Suburbs Forum. Yes, we can provide regular, quarterly, or every 6-month reporting on the progress of the plan, if that would suit all councillors.
Thank you. And I wanted to query in one of the slides you talked about overt and covert camera technology. Is the department working on that or intensifying work on that based on some views that with the introduction of gate fees at the tip could lead to more illegal dumping. So is there an escalation of work in the overt or covert, because you mentioned illegal dumping in your speech? Is that going to be enhanced because of expected uptick, or are you working on that as a result of those decisions?
Through the chair, yeah, we are currently working through a committee report at the moment, which we're bringing back to Planning Regulation in October, 2nd of October, I think it might be, on illegal dumping regulation and compliance activities. So we're doing that investigation right now and looking at how can we best prepare and be ready for a potential uplift in illegal dumping based off the gate fees.
Great. And one last question, just in relation to the anti-hooning trailers that we have. So we have two. We've had two for a number of years. The expectation that Anna outlined today that we're going to extend that contract to 2031. Did I get that right? Is that the optimum amount of anti-hooning trailers? If money was no issue, should we have more? I mean, two is across a pretty big city. It feels like not enough, but I'm interested in your expert view.
Through the chair, at this point in time, from the requests we get through the customer in our communities, sometimes through yourselves, and the requests we get from QPS, we can satisfy that demand with 2 cameras at the moment, and we give 4-week relocations for each of those anti-hooning trailers. So while the demand is meeting, I guess, the supply, we can continue to do that.
You just told us to ask for more locations. Yeah. We might satisfy that pretty quickly. But if we were to in the future consider more anti-hooning trailers, what do they cost? Or what is the? Can you give us a ballpark as what the cost city one would cost the city?
Through the chair, around $50,000 a year. It's a hired contracted model currently.
Yeah. And just for everyone's benefit who are watching, because there's thousands watching at home, what does that capture for the community? So when they see an anti-hooning camera, or we tell people we've put one out on Christine Avenue, Varsity Lakes, what can they expect it to be doing?
Through the chair, the anti-hooning trailers were specifically designed as a supporting mechanism to support police operations in response to hooning. That's where we find they're most effective. Essentially, they have 2 cameras that record vision 24/7, including licence plate recognition capability, and they'll be positioned case by case in each location to get the best coverage.
Okay. And one last question, just to follow on, Chair, from Councillor Marshall's questions. The example of Councillor Marshall being elbowed in the park, how long is that footage kept? So the request for information or right to information, how long is that available so Councillor Marshall can go and get that information or that footage? Thanks.
Through the chair, storage retention is 28 days across the program. However, for our mobile relocatable units, it reduces to 10 days due to the limitations of storage, given their smaller temporary devices.
I was back to Councillor Young, and then I'll come to Councillor Wilkinson.
Thanks, Chair. Just continuing with the anti-hooning trailers, those mobile anti-hooning trailers, of which we've got 2. I noticed that in the financial year 2024-25, there were just 2 requests from the Queensland Police, for the deployment of that trailer. Just 2 across the city, and just 4 incidents detected, which seems outstanding to me. I mean, I can point at 100 hooning offences and speeding offences any night in any street, and yet we're just detecting 4 in a year. I wonder if we're achieving anything at all with the utilisation of $100,000 per annum for the 2 cameras. I wonder if anybody can respond to that, please.
Through the chair, Councillor, it's a good question. I think something that's very difficult to measure, and we've struggled with this a while, is the deterrent value of those anti-hooning trailers. So we do get verbally from other councillors in the room and our customers that they do actually deter those type of activities occurring, but that is very, very difficult to measure. And you would have noticed in the mobile program in particular, we have been looking to be more proactive with our redeployments and more data-driven, and we are looking to do that with our anti-hooning trailers as well. So if I can use the mobile cameras as an example, last 23-24 financial year, we had 18 redeployments across the city, I think, around 18 redeployments, which only led to about 50 incidences. We were able to uplift that to over 100 redeployments, so get those cameras moving around to where QPS needed them, where our customers needed them, and where the data told us to. And I think we nearly doubled our incident capture from doing that. So we want to continue to look at that through the anti-hooning trailer to make sure we're getting the best value we can.
Councillor Wilkinson and Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Matt. It's very insightful and building off of kind of further to the conversations around what you've described as the urban villages. And I'd note on page 44 in the operations data, just looking at the outcomes at skate park incidences, can you just advise, as part of that urban villages, I've got a number of industrial sections that have, which I have had the fortune of being able to deploy some of the mobile CCTV cameras to, and also the anti-hooning trailer. But just as far as breaking up those particular focus areas between the entertainment precinct, urban village precinct, skate parks, and mobile CCTV program, why was skate parks pulled out? Like I get a lot of action in my industrial areas, and I'm just trying to work out is that part of the consideration as well moving forward? Because I know we've got physical signs that say this area may be monitored in some of those industrial areas, but just as a forward-thinking process for the city, is that something that's on the forward agenda as well, perhaps? Just a bit of feedback if you could.
Through the Chair, I think I'd like to incorporate that into the review of these different program categories, if I can, Councillor, and make sure we've defined those correctly, if that's okay. So I can take that on notice and get back to you.
Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Chair. And first, I'd just like to make a comment just in regards to the anti-hooning trailer. I can vouch for the anecdotal non-stop residents coming to me. So when we actually place the anti-hooning trailer on the busy Helensvale Road, which is one of our hooning hotspots throughout Division 2, I had multiple residents contacting me saying, we can sleep at night, there's no one going up and down the road, no one making noise. And the moment the 4 weeks was up, the phone calls started coming of, oh, they're back, oh no, I can't sleep. So I was actually interested on the other side, is that if we're looking at a budget of $50,000 a year, is it open to, obviously in collaboration with yourselves and QPS, but an investigation if a divisional councillor wanted to fund their own anti-hooning trailer in their division as a trial for 12 months to see that anecdotal, I know we're not going to get the data, but the anecdotal, because we will feel the response from residents, is that open to us to investigate and explore with you?
Through the Chair, Councillor, absolutely, we can explore any opportunities in that regard, and I think then have that real deliberate conversation around, trial length, location, intelligence-driven operations. And I think to Matt's earlier point on these, I think there is an opportunity to work really closely with both QPS and yourselves to make sure that we're actually doing an intelligence-driven approach. So, what are the hotspots across the city, and then providing that information to yourselves to then be able to, future forecast and schedule where these might go.
Thank you. Chair, I just had one other follow-up, if that's okay. I'd love to follow that up. But in regards to the new technology, so we're talking through the report about the NBN-enabled safety camera networks and reducing that reliance on that permanent fibre, which is the optimum solution. Are we confident that those alternatives will offer the same level of reliability and performance as the city's fibre network?
Through the Chair, we have a current trial underway in Labrador, I believe, at the moment. I think it's at Harley Park. So it is currently being delivered at this point in time. So we want to see how that trial goes. We'll be engaging with our CCTV operators in the SEN control room to ensure we're getting the right quality so they can support police in the ongoing investigations.
Okay, thank you. And Chair, I do have a change recommendation when councillors are finished with their questions.
I'm happy to get to that. Councillor Doran, question? Yeah, please.
I want to query we've recently had a decision made about not installing cameras at a location in Robina because they were heavily relying on the infrastructure for the private shopping centre, and I suspect Councillor Patterson might have a similar situation around the Australia Fair there, which I accept in the current position that sharing that footage when needed by law enforcement is a good outcome, saves us money. But I suppose the question raised when I read that report was, what happens if in an incident that they don't share, maybe it involves, something they don't want to share? Does that then change the view of officers that the location's deemed important enough to have it, but we're relying on a private camera to provide it if we need it? And if that breaks down in any way in an incident, will that change the viewpoint of the officers in relation to the installation of those if it's determined that we are needed, but we're not going to be able to rely on the private network?
Through the Chair, Councillor, I think the answer to that is yes. So where there was a lack of a surety that could be easily accessed, the vision could be easily accessed by QPS, then that would certainly be another criteria that would need to be considered, and may change that recommendation. So
I guess in that response, which I expected that would be as a reasonable response, right? In that instance, there's an incident that hasn't been captured. So you know what I mean? So if they haven't shared and then we go, we're going to have to put our own in, I'm concerned that incident isn't captured or isn't shared, whereas we have identified it as a location that could do with some network. Do you see where the problem, the logic there? We're relying on a failing to then make the decision to put the infrastructure in?
Through the Chair, Councillor, certainly understand that particular position. I think specific to that one in Robina, though, I think we've got history of it being able to be shared. And whilst I'm not 100% familiar with the exact legislation, I do think the Queensland Police Service have the ability to, if needed, to gain that. But that would certainly be something that we would need to continue to consider in locations, especially if we're talking about hypothetically, a different organisation that perhaps didn't have the level of infrastructure that we're talking about in this particular case.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Perhaps I was just wondering if you could comment, given that on the request that we received from the representatives from Australia Fair to access that state government funding in a way that would actually be really pragmatic around the shopping centres, and if there is potential for the state to consider that on-person camera and the grants for that. Thanks.
Through the Chair, Councillor, in that particular instance, I think their request was specific to body-worn cameras in particular, and certainly see the utility of that in that particular circumstance. Unfortunately, that particular grant program, how it was currently written in terms of the guidelines, didn't enable that to be considered, but the City has certainly passed on our view that it would be great to see perhaps a relaxation or a broader thinking in the future grant opportunities to maybe consider those more innovative, out-of-the-box aspects, especially as we're seeing technology really grow and enhance very rapidly. It would be really helpful to be able to look at perhaps some broader options as well.
Councillor Fowler, change recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. I have supplied it to Chamber Support, so if they could just pull that up, that would be great. If you just scroll down a little bit. So, thank you. So with the 4, 5, what was the 4, 5 and 6 is actually now the 4, 6 and 7. It's changing notes to endorses, and then in the last two it's changing approves to endorses. And the main reason for that is to really shine a light on the fact that we do want this to continue. We want city officers to know that we don't want this watered down. This is something that, as for me personally, I think that we should be committing to moving forward. And then the number 5 that's been added is new. And that's just really an acknowledgement of the Queensland Government, in particular our state member for Burleigh, and that election commitment that is coming through of $500,000, which I know that Mr Warner has already mentioned. And that money will go towards the upgrading of the CCTV network throughout the Burleigh Heads precinct and associated technologies as we upgrade foreshore projects in the many years to come. So that's just an acknowledgement of that and an addition position there. So I'd be happy to speak to it pending a seconder.
I'll just check first. Does anyone have any questions for Councillor Fowler and a change recommendation before I seek a seconder and we get into debate? Question, Councillor Gates? I had Councillor Martin already had his hand up to that, I'm guessing.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I am happy to second, but I do have a proposed amendment addition to this. You happy to hear it?
Let's float your amendment. Let's see if it's an amendment.
And it has really flowed from the conversation today. So thank you to officers. And it's I flicked it through on the fly to Chamber Support, but I don't know if they've got it yet. But it's pretty short. I just want to add an additional item that city officers provide a report to council to consider reclassifying Burleigh Heads as an entertainment precinct for the purposes of the 10-year safety camera network plan, which I think we've heard that is going to happen. But I'd like to just work that into this resolution here.
So, Mr. Connery, could I check with you quickly? Entertainment precinct is an internal narrative. The state say safe night precinct, don't they? So just to make it clear, Councillor Martin's not suggesting a safe night precinct. He's looking for...
Definitely not. And as I understand, Councillor O'Neill Coolangatta is not a safe night precinct. I want to be clear that that's not the request. The request is purely for the categorisation of this document designated as an entertainment precinct, which we talked about, and I think officers have tacit support for that.
Mr. Connery, your comments on this?
Chair, I guess confirming your clarification of the two terms, so we would not take that as being a safe night precinct. We would understand that in the context of this particular plan, and this plan only, an entertainment precinct, that would facilitate the continued focus on that location to have a really robust CCTV network.
Councillor Fowler, are you happy to accept that as an amendment to your change recommendation?
Well, Chair, I just had one suggestion for Councillor Martin to consider. So if it's that city officers provide a report to council, should we say to consider a reclassification of Burleigh Heads rather than classify, so we could get the advice back from city officers?
It would be probably a better way to put it.
Yeah, happy to take that contribution. And I'm happy to talk about that about why this request has been.
And then happy to accept it, Chair.
Okay. So we've got an amendment there at this stage, which we hadn't got to debate yet, so it can sit there. Councillor Patterson, did you have a question on the amendment?
While we're doing amendments on amendments, through you to Mr. Connery, given the feedback that you gave to the state, do you think it would be useful for us to formalise that in a resolution?
For the Chair, I think that would assist to get our point across.
Okay. Could you assist me with drafting a 9? So this is related to the state government's given grants for to put in CCTV, and the feedback that we're getting in some places, it would be more effective if we would allow that to be a body camera rather than a camera fixed somewhere. And just because of their grant rules, we can't allocate it that way. So the officers have given that feedback, but we could formalise it. So that'd be great. Thanks.
Question, Councillor Doran, while Mr. Connery's helping our chamber staff.
I was just wondering, I mean, it's probably going to be raised in debate, but I was wondering if Councillor Martin could help me understand the difference, the practical difference he's looking to get from designating Burleigh as entertainment precinct.
Councillor Martin, we've got time, so if you want to give a little bit of context, you're right.
Yeah, just the context, and I think it's important to note, it doesn't change the outcome or investment of the cameras. It's just reflective of the way a centre would operate. And I think, clearly in the report, and it's attachment 2, which talks about entertainment precincts, they are our busiest locations for night spots, alcohol-fueled violence, and I think we've all seen through the safety camera network. Burleigh Heads is constantly up in those upper echelon 2 or 3 in terms of activity, attendance, nighttime precincts, incidents. Currently, and I think it potentially has fallen through the cracks in that it draws police from Palm Beach, Robina, Broadbeach, we are getting a police beat. So I think it is just reflective of the way the precinct operates, and it meets all the criteria, to my knowledge, of an entertainment precinct within our designation under the 10-year plan.
And Councillor Martin, it would possibly be a report that you'd be able to provide to a member of the community to explain that as Burleigh heads and Burleigh changes, what comes with that in terms of a focus on these things, possibly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's without getting drawn into the state designation debate of Sape Knife Precinct, I think it's just reflective of the operation. And yeah, we've had a history, and we've had petitions, and we're on record of resolutions in trying to increase safety in Burleigh Heads. So I think it just reflects the nature of the precinct.
Okay, Councillor Doran, I'll give you that bit of extra context. Councillor Patterson, we've got a 9 up on the screen. Is that what you're suggesting?
I think we're just getting a little bit more wording on that.
Okay. How about we give ourselves a 5-minute adjournment just to let Mr. Connery get the word in before we come back home? So, meeting adjourned. We will reopen the meeting at 10:12. Thank you for that short break just to allow us to get some words sort of with officers. So we have made a slight adjustment to number 8, that instead of it requiring a full report to come back to committee, it's just to provide advice back to council. Councillor Martin is happy with that. And Councillor Patterson, just checking, so the proposed amendment, which was number 9, those words have been worked up. You're happy to put that forward as an amendment to the original motion? So, Councillor Fowler, we've had 2 amendments to your change recommendation. Can I just get a public record? You're happy to accept both of those?
Thank you, Chair. I think they're both great additions and happy to accept.
And Councillor Martin, still happy to second the entire motion? Very good. Councillor Fowler, to you to open.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair of the Mayoral Safer Suburbs Forum, I'd like to speak in strong support of this 10-year plan for our safety camera network and all the associated actions that have been presented and gone through today. This plan exemplifies a proactive, evidence-based approach to community safety that leverages modern technology, our collaboration and partnership with the Queensland Police Service and other partners, and our strategic expansion across our city's most activated public spaces. The actions presented to Council today have been carefully designed to enhance the deterrence of crime and antisocial behaviour citywide, improve the detection of offences and compliance breaches, and strengthen the city's ability to respond effectively to incidents. Importantly, the plan also aims to boost security at council leased facilities while ensuring full adherence to legislative requirements, including our information privacy principles and also the Right to Information Act 2009. The strategy is built around 3 core areas, as we've just learnt. Detection, which includes developing the 10-year plan and the expansion plan for licence plate recognition cameras. Response, which focuses on delivering the new Gold Coast Operations Management Centre and enhancing real-time coordination with partners like QPS and DTMR as well. And then technology. So we're looking at adapting new camera technologies in the future and running trials like the NBN Smart Trial to support detection and compliance operations. As we know, CCTV is not just about surveillance, it is a vital tool for real-time crime detection, rapid police response, and crucial evidence gathering. The network's comprehensive coverage from entertainment precincts to urban villages and our mobile units have already proven its value in deterring antisocial behaviour and supporting law enforcement. This 10-year plan, backed by strategic partnerships, robust governance and ongoing technology trials, reflects a responsible, future-focused investment in the safety and well-being of all residents and visitors. Chair, the change that we have today changes the language on a few of the points to show that as council we endorse this program moving forward for the next 10 years and we don't want it watered down. And also we have some additional amendments that have been added from other councils which I think are really valuable contributions.
Thank you for the opening, Councillor Fowler. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the change recommendation? I was just about to offer the opportunity, so I'll offer it to Councillor Young first to speak to the item.
Thanks, Chair. Unexpectedly, there's quite a lot of debate about this matter, which indicates that we are very concerned about community safety and public safety, and I think that's great. But I just want to relay to you and the councillors a disappointment I've got with the utilisation of these resources for what I perceive to be public benefit, in particular public safety. I've got a particular infrastructure project being delivered in Maudslin, which is a intersection works. It's about $3.5 million and it's taking about 5 months to achieve. And as a result of that, there's a necessity to detour traffic along some small residential streets for a period of 2 months. Increasing the traffic flows by at least a couple of thousand vehicles per day. These are very narrow residential streets with cars parked either side, poor geometry, poor alignment, and narrow, as I said. And so I sought a number of methods to try to improve the the safety for the public during that construction period. So I asked for speed awareness devices to be deployed. I've asked for additional signage along the roads to remind people of the fact that it's a residential area and there are dangers. I've managed to get the speed limit reduced for the duration of the project along that detour route and had line marking installed and all that sort of stuff. I got the project manager fully invested in that safety aspect, and he supported me in my request for the deployment of a mobile camera unit. So the division has 4 and I asked for 2 to be deployed along the route. I was repeatedly rejected. This request was repeatedly rejected, even though the policy allows for an ad hoc deployment of these resources for public benefit. The reasons given were that it was just inappropriate for that use. The mobile cameras are intended to provide public safety in parks and so forth, and I was arguing that the presence of a camera, it's evident to people, like Councillor Fowler said, the anti-hooning trailer has a definite effect on the behaviour of people, and I believe that those mobile CCTV units similarly have an effect. If you see them deployed in that street, you're going to slow down. Repeatedly refused, and not really strong reasons given. In one case, it was suggested to me by these people that I get a unit from the traffic management people. Unfortunately, they said there's none available, but we suggest you go and ask them. So ultimately, I did get some assistance in that the anti-hooning trailer was deployed. The project manager himself flagged we would like it there for the entire 2 months of that detour being activated. It was assigned for a month and then promptly removed at the end of that period. And I'm aghast at the fact that the police have only asked for these units twice in a whole year, and I'm asking for them to be deployed, and it just keeps getting refused because, I've had my month sort of thing. And I'm really disappointed with this behaviour, and I'm really disappointed with the lack of consideration of the safety concerns that I've tried to articulate in my requests, which I think have been reasonable and in good language, and where I've explained the circumstances. And I'm just completely frustrated, and I want the acting EGM to make note of that, and I would look forward to some change in that behaviour perhaps, so that we're seeing councillors' requests being more generously and positively considered. Thanks.
Councillor Martin, did you wish to contribute?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And first, I'd just say I think today has been great to have this discussion and not probably have our usual DA, so we could give this the full investigation. And what I'd just like to call out, thank officers for a huge amount of work on this, absolutely evident. And I did want to give a shout out to Councillor Fowler, who's a new Mayoral Safer Suburbs Forum Chair, who actually had come down to my division with officers to brief me on some of the changing dynamics of Burleigh Heads and the increased focus on there. Also, it looped in the state member, given the state government's contribution of $500,000 to supplement our safety camera network upgrade. So I was really pleased to see that that focus and that attention to detail. So thank you. And obviously the addition of 8, which, developed today, at point 8, I'm really pleased to see Burleigh Heads be considered, given, the economic activity that's happening there. I think it reaffirms our commitment. We do have a previous resolution that was endorsed following that tragic death of Cameron Juice after a late night assault, and so that just reaffirms our commitment there and the categorisation of entertainment precincts, which by definition are our busiest entertainment precincts. This program started in 1998, and there's 4 key precincts, being Surfers Paradise, Southport, Broadbeach and Coolangatta. Not all of them are safe night precincts by designation, a different issue, but they are our our nighttime precincts, and I think everyone would agree that Burleigh Heads is, fantastic that it's growing and evolving, but it's very busy, massive late night precinct. So I would absolutely look forward to that advice coming back to council to consider looping in Burleigh as we continue to grow and evolve. And I do have to acknowledge that obviously, that's relevant that we've got an incoming police beat. So I think it absolutely warrants investigation of consideration. So thank you, and I look forward to supporting the motion.
Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also going to support this today, and I thought I'd just outline a couple of things that I think is worth noting. I represent Robina and Varsity Lakes, which are both urban villages and well serviced by a fixed safety camera network. And I think the amount of times in this, 16 or so months that we've been in this role that people have commented on the deployment of a mobile CCTV camera into a park that's maybe getting some antisocial behaviour, that then it immediately stops that behaviour, has been quite numerous in my time. The deterrence factor of the anti-hooning cameras is real. You only need to see the behaviour when people drive past a fixed speeding camera compared to when there's not one there. And I think the ability on the incidences where it is needed to tap into that information for law enforcement is incredibly valuable to the community. The 10-year strategic plan is a great way for us to continue that commitment to public safety. We've had reports in the last 12 months around the perception of safety being a real factor with our community, and this here is an example of council doing more than what we're required to do under the Act. I think councils, I personally get written to around behaviour-related issues, driving or antisocial or bikes or people up to no good in a certain area. And it's frustrating when I need to say that there's actually a police issue. They monitor behaviour of drivers or of bad behaviour. But it's actually another really comforting piece for me to be able to say, however, as a good contributor to public safety, the city has the following measures in place where we support our law enforcement to do that job, and the continuation of the 10-year plan, I think, is a really good example of us continuing to contribute to public safety, albeit not a core responsibility of what we do. And so I'm really pleased to see the changes that have been made today, but also the overall report, and hopefully we can continue to do our job and pull our weight in this respect. And I think you all should be very commended.
Good contribution, Councillor Doran. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to just to let the committee know that the rural areas really benefit from the mobile CCTV cameras as well, the anti-hooning, because it's not always the situation that police can get to the rural areas because of the distance, and they're deployed somewhere else. So I find that and I really welcome the opportunity to maybe purchase another one through the divisional LAW funding, because I'd like to have a permanent one that I can move around both my rural areas, because I can tell you that both Tallabudgera Valley and Currumbin Valley, the hoons just love going out there at night, and they know that they can get away and the police don't get there in time. So, and that's nothing against the police. They've got other duties that they have to have, but I think that's a good move if we can organise that. Thanks, Mr. Connery. Bye.
Councillor Fowler to close.
Thank you, Chair. In closing, I'd just like to reiterate thanks to our community safety partners that we do have across the city, including QPS and state government's various departments. Recently, I went down to Burleigh Heads with the QPS and the Jack Beasley Foundation and had the joy of joining them in their wanding through Burleigh Heads, which was a really amazing experience. And through that walkthrough, it was really great to talk to the top of the police force down to the guys on the street, and they are very excited about the additional cameras that are coming through to Burleigh Heads, as well as the police beat that's on its way from the state government as well. Just a thanks to the officers for the report and the plan today, and I'm looking forward to the updates in the upcoming mayoral Safer Suburbs forums. Thanks, Chair.
Debate is closed. Take the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Young, how are you voting? Please record Councillor Young as abstaining. The vote is carried. Councillor Fowler, I defer any media on this item to you. Councillors, that moves us to item 6.2. Trina, Jordana, Sam, good morning to you. We welcome Alicia back to the EGM chair as well. I think we have a short presentation on this one before we go to questions, or we go straight to questions? That's fine. Councillor Doran, you had a question on this one?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks you for the monthly update. We appreciate being kept in the loop as to how things are going. I do have actually two questions, just to cheekily trick the chair. The first one relates to page 77. It says that we're collaborating with the transport team, but it also says that there's a big body of work, but they're slightly delayed. It's really important for my area that the planning contribution to how we're going to satisfy the growth coming to Robina and Varsity Lakes is accommodated with the appropriate planning for our transport network. Could you speak to whether or not there's any concerns with the integration between the two planning department and the LGMS and the planning scheme work, but also the transport team's contribution?
Through the chair, we are working through at the moment, and we have noted that there is some delays with some of the areas, but the delays that we've noted in here are based on the KPI, which was the 30 June with the policy development. So as you'll note in the report, we're actively working with all of our policy areas to look at options to bring them back on track. So there will be more information forthcoming once we've been able to establish those pathways and what that means for each of our individual policy areas. It is a large body of work for the new planning scheme to get through, because there's, I think, 20 different policy areas that we do need to work through, which is why it is taking a little bit of time for us to get to that point. But for transport in particular, we are looking at being able to bring forward different pieces of work up front and doing some of that work concurrently as we're doing policy as well as drafting.
So no concerns yet?
No concerns yet, and we will continue to keep you updated. So we are working through it, and we'll, as I said, we will continue to keep you updated.
Okay. Just one more question, Chair. On page 81, it talks about emerging impacts to the higher level timeline, and bullet point 1 talks about the state governments in the Section 18 notice and the fact that they've indicated that we should push it out. I was wondering if you can talk to that, but then also it's in the emerging impacts, but the final sentence sort of says this isn't a risk. So if you could just unpack that a little bit for me, please.
I have included it in the timing risk, because originally it was due to be forthcoming to this committee mid-2025, so it has been delayed. So it's not a risk to the timing as such, but it has been a delay. Now, we are working with the State Interest Reference Group, and we are meeting with the State Interest Reference Group tomorrow, and that is one of the discussion points that's up for discussion. And we are looking to bring the Section 18 notice to this committee, hopefully in October, to get that back to the state. So whilst we haven't necessarily met that timeline, it won't impact on the overall timeline or the work program for the scheme.
To quickly follow up on that, Jordana, so you've been involved in new planning schemes before. These two things I've just outlined, is it normal? Is it normal in the process of bringing such a big body of work together and all the groups together?
It is normal, and we obviously have a condensed time frame for this scheme, so it is normal. We are doing lots of things concurrently, and we are trying to work concurrent programs so that we can still meet that time frame. So it is normal. As we move through, we will see if there are going to be any impacts, and if there are impacts to that time frame or risks that continue to keep emerging, we will be updating you on that. So as we work through it, we'll be able to identify those with a lot more clarity.
What you said condensed time frame. What was the time frame you worked on in the previous planning scheme you did?
Each council is different, and it also depends on the government at the time. So when I was at Logan, we had a very short time frame as well. We got it across the line, but we were able to work really effectively and collaboratively with the state government at the time. We also have a very good working relationship with the state government at the moment. So whilst the timeframes are nice and tight, which can have really good benefits because you have less impacts from changing policy positions, it does mean that you are trying to get policy done quite quickly. So, there's a lot of benefits from getting it done quickly and getting it across, and also then being able to bring more up-to-date policy to your community and to your industry and to council.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Jordana, I had a question. So we've seen the first piece of policy work in the local area plan do the full circle through the Planning Scheme Advisory Group, the Community Reference Group, the Industry Reference Group, individual councillors and workshop input into that. I was wondering if you could give your thoughts, and I'd welcome Trina or Sam to have input too, on how you feel like that process of feeding it through that way, what we've learnt from that, and what the benefits or negatives that we've found through that process.
Yeah, look, it's been really beneficial to be able to get the feedback from all of the groups. It's meant that we've been able to get obviously individual feedback from councillors, but we've also picked up learnings and feedback from industry and the community, and it's meant that in terms of when we bring it to council, we've got the sentiment from each of those groups, and also we've been able to learn about the framing and the messaging around it. So in some instance, it might mean that the policy position is actually good, it's just how we frame it. So it's definitely been really beneficial in terms of getting it to all of those groups, and the reference groups themselves have provided a lot of really beneficial information to us. We've been able to take that on board, and we'll certainly be feeding that into all of the reports that come up.
Councillor Gates, question?
It's not a question, it's just a comment to respond to your question. From my perspective, I think it's been important to highlight to the officers that if we reintroduce LAPs, that there needs to be a level of honesty about what those LAPs seek to deliver, because I'm pretty sure that the community expects it to retain areas in their current form, when often there might be an element of growth envisaged in an area as well. So I just think that there needs to be very strong community consultation once we get to that point, so that we are totally honest about the intent of any local area plans, which may not ultimately be called local area plans, but that we identify the purpose strongly so that the community comes on the journey with us.
So Councillor Gates has dragged us to debate nearly, so if there's no other questions, I'm happy to move it and seek a seconder. Happy to move. Councillor Young's happy to second. Councillor Gates has actually given me a really good segue into what I was going to make that point of, that so I've participated in all of those different reference groups in this first round, specifically in the LAP stuff, and Jordana's point that the policy position was accurate, but the language we were using to explain it in each reference group had to be slightly tailored. And it was incredibly interesting at the community reference group, because there was, like, when I put a series of questions, there was definitely an idea of what certain community members thought LAPs would be used for. And then when explained by Jordana and others that there were other instruments to be able to do those things, and that an LAP may not be the most effective tool, they went, oh, that's fine then. Like, if that's the more effective thing to provide clarity to the industry, clarity for the community, clarity to the judges, came up a fair bit. Like, we're just wanting to make sure that there's nothing subjective there and judges can understand it. So from my point of view, acknowledging it's a very time-consuming process and it takes a lot of work to tailor presentations to each of those groups, but to see the concept of local area plans feed through PSAG, feed through community reference group, industry reference group, the input from individual councillor briefings, change language, change intent, and get it hopefully to a point where when it gets presented back, it's clear for everyone to understand from all those areas, and that we won't have that problem of the community thinking it means one thing and that actually resulting in another. So just to acknowledge that I do acknowledge that it's a big piece of work for officers, all the reference groups, and preparing for all of those, and that I've taken a lot of positive away from that first thing feeding through. And hopefully if we continue if we continue to see that level of success, that we can feed our policy positions through, get their input early, get the language right, that the effort on the front end will save us a lot of months, if not years, in the back end. Anyone else wishing, I'm hoping no one wishing to speak against it, is just checking, no one to speak against. Is there anyone wishing to contribute in general? In that case, you can take those mo close as well. We'll take the vote. All those in favour? Against? The motion is carried. Thank you, team. Now for a very big change of pace, we're going to go to supply of dog waste bags and dispensers. Councillors, there is a short presentation available. Are we taking it as read and going straight to questions? I'll take your input. Happy to go straight to questions.
Did you say there's a short presentation?
There is a short presentation.
If we could have it, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. Chair, my name is Stacey Wallace, Coordinator Compliance Strategy, and I'm here this morning to discuss item 6.3, supply of dog waste bags and dispensers. This item is to present the findings from a recent review of the existing dog waste bags and dispensers and how we aim to optimise the number and the placement of these existing dispensers. We are also seeking approval to transition to a more environmentally friendly bag and suitable dispenser solution for the city. As outlined in last year's report to this committee and recent consultation, the City of Gold Coast provides significantly more dog waste bags and dispensers compared to benchmarks surrounding councils. We provide more bags per registered dog, more bags per dog off-leash area, and more bags total for the number distributed annually. The increasing number of dispensers throughout the city has led to a corresponding rise in the volume of bags distributed and associated costs each year, without a clear improvement in the service level for the intended purposes of the bags. As you're all aware, we provide these bags as a discretionary service to support the community in meeting their legal requirement to carry a bag, implement or container suitable to pick up after their dog. While other benchmarked councils have adopted compostable or biodegradable bags, the City of Gold Coast continues to use degradable plastic bags, which are much less environmentally friendly. Councillors, you may remember the alarming stakeholder and community feedback indicating that up to 50% of the dog waste bags provided by the city are used for purposes other than collecting dog waste. These insights, combined with the need for a new dispenser supplier, made the recent review and trial a necessary step in moving to a better solution for the city. We currently have two main types of dog waste bag dispensers around the city. The open mouth style, shown here, allows users to easily take between 5 and 100 bags at one time, whereas the letterbox style holds less, but it has a narrow opening designed to encourage the pinch and pull method, making it more difficult to take multiple bags at one time. After assessing the city's approximately 300 dog waste bag dispensers, 30% of these were identified for further analysis. This analysis included evaluating factors such as the location, the refill frequency, local dog population, future projections, proximity to other dispensers within a 2-kilometre radius, and input from each of you as respective divisional councillors. Based on this assessment, 14% of dispensers across the city were identified for optimisation and relocation, and 16% for additional monitoring in place. The optimisation of the 14% of dispensers identified in the analysis is expected to result in cost savings for bag supply, usage and servicing, while still providing an excellent level of service for the community. This optimisation process supports a more effective resource use and promotes fair access to dog waste bags across the city. It is an important step towards the transition to an environmentally friendly dog waste bag and dispenser solution. So we needed some locations to do some real-life testing of our trial dispensers and environmentally friendly dog waste bags. The 4-week trial saw our trial bags and dispensers in use at the locations shown in the presentation and these locations offered us a mix of high traffic areas, locals and tourists, and varying coastal exposures. If you didn't get a chance to test one of these during the trial, we have the pictures here in the presentation. The middle image shows the trial set up at Musgrave Park, and the close-up shows the two different types of dispensers. The roll-type dispenser, shown with the bright green compostable bags, are connected one by one on a roll, and this is a commercially available product. With the one with the black compostable singlet-style bags, we're calling Prototype 2.0. This was specifically made based on the project feedback and specific needs of our city. Unfortunately, Prototype 1.0 was not sufficiently waterproof in the initial testing, and thus 2.0 was created and used in the 4-week trial. Trial data was collected daily from city cleaning staff, including the bag usage, condition of the dispensers and the bags, the ease of refilling, and the single-use mechanism was if it was still effective. Data was also gathered from park users via our animal management staff, who attended most sites between 3 to 6 times per week throughout the trial and engaged with the local users and recorded their feedback. More than 90% of park users who spoke with animal management staff regarding the dispenser trial responded yes when they were asked whether the city should move to a more environmentally friendly bag option. The trial data revealed that the roll dispenser had notable capacity limitations, with the end of the roll often appearing empty to users, even if there were still several bags left on the roll. The roll dispenser was not consistently effective for single-use dispensing, with city cleaning and animal management staff witnessing ribbons of bags being taken by users at one time. The prototype dispenser proved to be more effective for servicing, waterproofing, and park user ease of use without overuse. Stakeholder feedback towards the flat pack singlet style bags was generally really positive, with the vast majority rating their satisfaction with the prototype dispenser and compostable singlet bags as 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. The trial data and internal stakeholder feedback proved that the prototype dispenser and the singlet style compostable bags are the best option for the city. So what's next? So earlier this year, we conducted market sounding to explore any new or more cost-effective products that we hadn't previously considered. We received 16 responses from both Australian and international companies, and most of them offered the roll-style bags, with only a few providing the certified compostable and environmentally friendly options. Pricing details varied, but our flat pack singlet compostable bag cost estimates ranged between 4 to 8 cents per bag, which is slightly cheaper than our previous estimate, but still more expensive than our current degradable plastic bags, which are approximately 2 cents per bag. The recent trial confirmed that due to the high volume of bags and servicing needs across the Gold Coast, roll bag dispensers and third-party servicing options are not viable at this time. While some alternative dispenser types were cheaper to purchase than our prototype was, they failed to meet the requirements for capacity, durability, ease of refilling, waterproofing, and single-use functionality. Armed with the insights from the June-July 2025 trial, market sounding data, and stakeholder feedback, we've identified some options for moving forward. Option 1 is a recommended approach by city officers. This involves optimising the current stock of dog waste bag dispensers to better service the city as a whole while we transition to new dispensers and compostable bags next year. In the short term, we will continue to use the existing supply of degradable dog waste bags, and this will allow us to swap out the wide-mouth dispensers to the letterbox dispensers wherever possible during this time to help reduce bag consumption. Final refinements and targeted testing of the custom dispenser based on Prototype 2.0 can continue during this time and allow for detailed preparation and planning for the city to transition to a new dispenser type and suitable compostable bags. Cost savings from the optimised locations and reduced bag consumption will assist in the transition to the compostable bags. Importantly, no additional funding is required for our current budget period, so this financial year, and any additional costs that may be required for full implementation in 2026 can be properly considered and prepared for in the 26-27 budget and managed accordingly. This option supports the city to continue to progress towards a compostable dog waste bag solution while utilising the existing supply of degradable dog waste bags we have already purchased. You can see the benefits and disbenefits listed for each option within the report and also within the presentation. We do also have option 2, which proposes optimising the current supply of dog waste bags and initiating a partial transition to the new dispenser and bag types in selected areas for the city this financial year. This would be a staggered approach, which would see changes in the dispensers and bag types in some areas of the city while retaining the existing dispensers and degradable bags in the other areas. Although this option allows for an earlier transition and a partial shift towards the compostable bag, it introduces operational complexity and requires city cleaning to manage 2 types of dispensers and bags, which will reduce their efficiency and increase their logistical challenges and costs. The preferred prototype design dispenser would only be able to undergo minor refinements and testing before implementation, and if additional adjustments are needed, these dispensers would require retrofitting, which could increase the costs. Estimated costs for the initial implementation, if we were to go between 50 and 100 new dispensers and compostable bags, would be between $25,000 and $80,000 for this financial year and may require consideration at a budget review. This approach would limit our opportunities for bulk purchasing and design standards. Option 3 involves a complete replacement of all existing dog waste bags to the new custom dispenser and compostable bag type across the city this year. This option carries the highest financial and operational risk. The prototype dispenser design would be implemented without the ability to do that further refining and testing, so any adjustments would need to be done retrospectively to all 300 units. Additionally, the existing stock we have of the degradable plastic bags would become obsolete and likely result in going to landfill. The high-level estimated costs of new custom dispensers plus the high-level estimated cost of compostable singler bags sits between $150,000 and $250,000 for this financial year and would require consideration at a budget review. Again, you can see the benefits and disbenefits listed for the options in the report and in the presentation. Lastly, option 4 proposes maintaining the status quo by continuing with the existing dog waste bags and degradable plastic bags. This includes retaining all current dispensers, including those that have been identified for optimisation or relocation due to low usage, overlapping coverage or suspected misuse. To accommodate the new dog off-leash areas from the 2025 Animal Control Area Review and other emerging needs of the city, we would need to place small ad hoc orders for similar dispenser types. However, without a preferred supplier or contract in place, procurement would remain reactive and potentially costly until a long-term supplier for the existing dispenser type could be secured. With this option, the continued use of the open mouth dispensers would allow excessive bag withdrawal and likely continue to increase the bag usage and misuse and the associated costs. Additionally, these current dispensers are not waterproof and therefore not suitable to change to a compostable bag. This approach does not align with community expectations for the city's environmental objectives and may result in negative reputational impacts. Maintaining the current system will lead to continued year-on-year increases in costs of servicing. Based on the data and findings, city officers recommend option 1 as the preferred approach for the city to move forward. This option strikes a balance between environmental objectives, community expectations, and financial viability. The recommended wording as per the report is provided in the presentation. Thank you.
See Councillor Young's hand dart up first.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Pardon me. Just a couple of questions through you, Chair. I know that we've dealt with the matter of the bags before, but I just want you to articulate how much difference is there between the degradable bag, which obviously ultimately degrades by virtue of its name, and then the compostable bag, please.
Yep, through the chair. So we currently have the degradable plastic bags, which are correct, it does degrade. There's chemical within the plastic that breaks it up into smaller fragments, but it never actually disappears, so it does leave those microplastics and toxic residue. The same with the biodegradable, it just breaks down quicker and into smaller pieces. Whereas your compostable bags are made from natural material and it can break down into non-toxic components and eventually disappears and leaves nothing behind.
Thank you very much. Do you mind going back to your slide showing us the dispensers that you used during the trial? Now, the one that you're preferring, I think, is the one on the right. How does that work, please?
Through the
How
chair.
do I take bags from that?
So this is actually open to show the bags within it.
Yep.
So if I can point to, that's the door. So there's a little opening there. So it's similar to the letterbox style. As you can see, the smaller opening on the letterbox style.
Right.
That's the pinch and pull method.
And there's some concern about the waterproofness of this. So I just wondered if we might not deliberately make these more difficult to access, like we could put a flap on the front. You've got to lift with one hand so you can get the bag with the other. So it's just more inconvenient, deliberately to try to reduce the amount of waste and amount of reliance upon these bags, which cost a lot of money.
Through the chair, we did actually look in prototype 1.0 was that flap based on our stakeholder feedback, but then we got additional feedback that it became too hard, that if you were trying to hold your dog and your phone or whatever, and it actually became too hard to get a bag and people were more likely to injure their hand. So we did initially have the flap and then went back. So this one has a little awning over it for waterproofing, and the slot is a little bit smaller than the existing pinch methods.
Thanks, and thanks for all the help that you've provided, the information you've been providing through this process over the last months.
Thank you.
Questions? Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Chair. Just interested in the trial that you did. Obviously, weather is a factor and the dispenser types. Just wondering if you had any feedback on sort of, I've got coastal off-leash dog beaches, whether sort of sea air is going to impact perhaps us going as fully compostable bags, or what sort of feedback you have on that?
Thank you. Through the chair, we fortunately got some rain, which was quite good, and we did have one of the areas at the spit to get that change in exposure, and we found that the prototype was actually really effective at the waterproofing. We do need to tweak the silicone a little bit just to firm that up, and the bags managed really well. What we did find, if there were any bags that were on the ground, they degraded in the rain, but the ones actually in the dispenser did really well.
So just to follow on, so outside of rain, but just winds like sea breeze, that sort of stood up well?
Through the chair, yes, it did.
Councillor Gates.
Thanks, Chairman. Is there a possibility, through you, Chair, that we can reconsider having a flap on these dispensers? Because my recollection is that we're spending over $1 million a year on bags due to theft mainly, where people take bag after bag after bag. And sure, if you interviewed people, they'd say it was a little less convenient, but perhaps that's a good thing that they have to manage holding onto their dog and opening a flap and taking one bag. Is there a possibility that we can have a look at the introduction of the flap?
Through the chair, one of the ways that we found was actually more effective than the little opening was the location of the slot. So what we uncovered is if the opening is at the bottom, people can still grab multiple bags, whereas we've moved the opening up from the bottom, so you've actually got a pinch. It's quite difficult to get more than one. So we found that the requirement to get them one at a time stops people from doing that easy grab-in or ribbon type effect. So actually moving the slot up seems to be more effective than having a little opening.
That slat is on an angle. Is that correct? Is there a reason for that?
Through the chair, I think that's just the angle of the photo, so it's horizontal.
Oh, okay, thank you. So no flap.
Okay. Councillor Patterson.
I just thought I'd make a comment on that, if I may, Chair. So I think the distinct difference between this is it makes it a lot harder to grab a lot. And the other concern I would have is you can still access this and you've got a hygiene element. You're only touching a new clean bag. If every single person is having to touch something and they're dealing with dogs and stuff, I think that's kind of a different thing. So, thank you.
That's a fair point, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Doran.
Thank you, Chair. I have a change recommendation when you're ready to accept it.
We'll see if there's any further questions and then we'll come back to change recommendations. Councillor O'Neill, question?
My question through the chair is, did any of the councillors try
either of these? No. Would have
Councillor
liked the
Fowler, question?
opportunity.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, my question is just about community consultation and engagement. And I just wanted to get a little bit more detail on what the city's plan would be for educating the transition. And are we looking at signage, or what does that look like? And I guess the benefits of changing the bags, but also changing the design. Perhaps, I don't know if you're also considering signage at more of our misuse locations as an education piece.
Through the chair, we do have some proposed wording to give to each of the councillors for if we are going ahead with relocating and optimising the location, so that you can provide that information to your constituents. We are actually also looking at more different ways we can get that message across. At the moment, we have a little sticker with a dog in motion doing its business, but we've researched some other councils have some amazing ways. They've got a chihuahua in a little fairy costume saying there's no such thing as the poo fairy, and there are different creative ways to engage with the community on that education piece that we're looking into.
Through the Chair, Councillor, we are looking at a multi-channel communications plan, intending that to include social media and signage in appropriate places.
Any further questions before we come to a proposed change recommendation? Councillor Doran, you have a proposed change recommendation.
Provided it to Chamber support a little earlier.
We will let that get up on the screen so we can see what we have proposed. I'll just check, so that's the change recommendation. Right. We'll just let it be formatted, and then Councillor Doran, if you'd like to explain the contextual and practical difference between your change recommendation and the original officer recommendation, possibly might help.
Yeah, sticking really tightly to what the change is. Option 1 is what city officers have endorsed out of the 4 options. What I'm putting forward is that we do continue to explore the alternative model, which is that the city officers have requested, that we do look to make some efficiencies in relation to the areas where which these can go out, but we do go to composting, all the things that the officers have suggested. However, no dispenser locations are removed or relocated without the divisional council approval is the only change. I'm happy to speak to the reasons for that when at the right time.
All right. So I've got 2 hands up. Is that 2 hands up looking to support this? So I'll take the question first, Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Chair. I was just keen to clarify. I think we had some recent consolidations which officers briefed us on, and I'm just wondering, is that's already in play? So to Councillor Doran's point around approval, I'm just wondering, are those coming soon, or they've already been done?
Through the chair, they haven't been done yet. We wanted to go through this process and get the formal okay from you guys before we do any relocations.
Okay, Councillor Patterson, you're happy to second that change recommendation? In that case, Councillor Doran, to open debate.
Thank you, Chair. So I think that the idea of a couple of things. So 12 million bags the city gives out. Comparable council, Brisbane, is about 5 million. So we do have a very generous system. Tick. It is a requirement under local law that dog owners carry dog bags with them. I grant that as well. We're also looking to move to compostable bags, and that's a good thing too. And the issue, as it turns out, is that the compostable bags are more expensive than the existing bag supply. Add to that the fact that we've got an issue with supply of dispensers. So there's a few things going on here. And also the bags, we've got a supply of bags we have that we have to run down. They're the issues as Stacey has outlined it to me in my briefing, which I appreciate. What this change recommendation is seeking to do is to give officers the mandate to go and do the work that officers are looking to do, but I'm just looking to remove the weakening of the locations around our divisions, because I believe there's still work to be done before we can really know whether or not that dispenser is in the right spot or not. And I don't want to remove a service level to the community. And I just outline why I think that that's important. So there is an issue with too many bags being taken, and then what we're looking at is, for example, the dispensers that are determined to be not high use and therefore able to be relocated are being measured against those where we're also saying that they're potentially not being used for dog bag dispensers. So the comparison there is against an overuse, which we believe is not right, and an existing use. So what I'm suggesting is that with the new dispensers that are replaced as they go, and the new compostable bags, the ability to take hundreds at a time, the aim of that change is to reduce that. So until we have that system in place, we don't yet know whether or not the existing locations are a good use, a right use, or an underuse. And so I think that we should give the officers the ability to go through that process and also take a breath and say, well, let's just leave the current service level unless the sitting councillor says, I agree with you, we can relocate or move that. And that's obviously within their right. So there is already the provision to consult. I'm simply saying approval instead of consult, because I believe that we should allow the work to go through before we really know whether or not we have a problem with that particular dispenser. I'll give you a couple of unintended consequences to some of the policies. So the 2 kilometre radius that is listed, not only whether or not it's used enough, but whether it's within a 2 kilometre radius to another dispenser. I requested a dispenser to be put into Robina, just to give you an example. It was around the town centre, and I was told, one of the reasons I was told we couldn't put it there was because there was one within a 2 kilometre radius, which for those of you who know the geography, was in Firth Park in Mudgeeraba, crossing an M1 in multiple areas, which is not a realistic 2 kilometres. So there are some unintended consequences to good intentioned policy. I think that a minor change to the service level will be a high impact to the community. It might seem like a small thing. Yes, it's a requirement they carry their own bags, but I see so many people out and about who have these bags. They have taken a number, but they've also tied them around their lead. They are using them. So I accept that some people are using them in a way that we're probably not wanting, but still using them. And so I think that before we remove the service level, we should allow the officers to do their work in relation to changing the dispenser type, changing the composting bags, and see whether or not at that point we still have a problem or we still have an underuse in certain locations that could be more beneficial in other locations. And that's the intent behind the slight change to the officer's recommendation.
Speaker against the change recommendation? Councillor Doran, I think we'll just go straight back for a close on this one because I'm getting a sense that you've pretty well nailed it on the head. Anything in close? In that case, councillors, debate is closed. We'll take the vote on the change recommendation. All those in favour? Against? The change recommendation is carried. Councillor Doran, if there is media on that item, I defer that media to you. Don't have a choice now. Councillors, that moves us to item 6.4, and we're going to bounce back to a very different subject again and go to appeals now. We really have bounced all around the Planning and Regulation Department today. Rachel, good morning to you. Councillor Gates, from memory, I think you had a question on this item. Is that a question we can deal with in open, or do we need to move it closed because it's legal? Councillor Gates moves us to close. All those in favour? Move to live streaming off. Thank you. Move us to closed session for legal advice. Thank you. Councillors, we are back in live session. We're at item 6.4. I'm happy to move the item and Councillor Gates is happy to second it. Thank you to councillors for the additional questions enclosed. It's really good to see the level of interest in appeals in this quarterly report, helping bring some of the information forward. I wanted to take the opportunity, while it didn't form part of the report, while we've got Rachel in the room and a few of our planning appeal officers here, to make the point that I think last month or the month before, we resolved 13 appeals in 1 month, which is the largest amount that we have resolved in 15 years in any 1 month. And also that we reached 23 active appeals, which is the lowest number that we've had in 15 years as well. And a lot of that is to do with Rachel and her team's really quite extraordinary efforts. This is not an easy part of the organisation to be in and what they deal with, but they do such a brilliant job with it. But just to point that out, that those numbers being down means that less ratepayer funds is being spent and that officer time can be directed to other things. So just to point that out, that's a really great team effort and thank you for that work. Councillors, anyone wish to speak against the motion? In that case, I will close debate. All those in favour of the motion? Against? The motion is carried. I have one GBI item from Councillor Doran. Councillor Patterson, do you need to go? You're right for the GBI? Yep. So I received a general business item from Councillor Doran. Councillor Doran, would you wish to speak to it quickly?
I am the council representative on the Queensland Government Animal Management Task Force that met recently and distributed thereafter the statistics around dog attacks across 55 local governments from a period of 2022 to 2024, which has been a big effort to collate from 55 local governments and it's taken some time. But the statistics that I've put up on the screen and disseminated in the general business item were quite confronting when you look at that period of 2 years, 2022 to 24, and I shared them with officers and the chair, and it was determined that it would be a good opportunity to make sure that we are doing what we need to do as a city to prevent dog attacks and also to have dogs registered. And I'll just give out a couple of things here because dog registration, 32% of all dogs that committed an attack were not registered. 60% of dog attacks occur in residential areas, and when you look at 16,000 dog attacks reported during that period, it's something that we need to make sure that we're doing everything we need to do. And there were some other statistics that relate to deaths, and 47% of all dog attacks were dogs were not under effective control, which is obviously a requirement of local law when we go to that space. So some good work happening from the state government that and the previous state government that commenced this work around dog breeds, etc. But this is an item that came out of the last meeting, and I think that we should, with the support of city officers who suggested this as well, and Councillor Hamill, that we should revisit the work we're doing and make sure we're doing what we need to.
Councillor Gates.
I was going to second the next speak to it.
Oh, got two seconders.
Councillor Patterson's fine to second. But I just wanted to contribute to this because in the last term of council, Councillor Vorster and I moved very proactively to increase the fines for dogs off leash. And it was because we were unable to fine the dog owners under the state legislation. And so we have now significant penalties for people who unleash their dogs unless it's a leash-free area and unless their dog is under their effective control. I've had a husband that's ended up in hospital twice through dog attacks where absolutely no action, despite knowing where the owners lived, despite approaching the owners, they refused to cooperate and there was nothing more we could do. So those fines that are in place now, whilst they might seem severe when someone has a little pup that's off its leash and they get pinged, and that's very unfortunate, but I hope that it gets the message through to people that we're serious about protecting people from off-leash dogs where they can't be trusted and I think it's probably been a good outcome. I don't know how many fines have been issued since it went up so significantly. It might be interesting if at some point we can get that in another report, but congratulations, Councillor Doran. This will be a good report for us to consider. Thank you.
I think, Mr Connery, that request for data from Councillor Gates would form part of this report for good context. Councillor Curtis?
Thank you, Chair. It's just a question of grammar. I've never seen a motion or a recommendation that included the mover as the subject of the sentence and then has words like "we." Is that a problem? Should it be a more general statement?
I was going to say we could probably, I mean, the preamble was in the GBI, but it doesn't necessarily mean part of the recommendation. We can remove that altogether. Yeah,
that's fine. Well, the recommendation is 1 and 2, which is the part that matters. The rest of it is preamble.
I just copied the GBI, Councillor Curtis.
Yeah. Anyone else noting there's a report coming back on this, and we'll have plenty of time to look at this later on, but anyone else wish to say anything else to this today? Mr Connery, while there's no date indicated of this report, I think it would be one that a more timely return of the report on this would be welcomed by committee. Councillors, we'll take the vote on the GBI. All those in favour? Against? We look forward to that report coming back. Councillor Fowler.
Chair, sorry, I don't have a general business item prepared, but I just had a question, if I may. I actually just wanted to understand better in regards to the major assessments application change that Council voted on. And I am confused to what we agreed on. I was hoping either yourself or through you to the EGM would be able to clear that up for me.
Through you, Mr Chair, I'm happy to have a go, Councillor Fowler, and you can agree or not.
So when I reread the minutes which were sent to us yesterday afternoon, I was a bit confused and the interpretation of it. Did Council agree to a default position that we assess all major applications here on in our default position is special delegation unless a divisional councillor or the mayor would like it to come to committee? Or is it only when council is not sitting / recess?
Through you, Mr Chair, Councillor Fowler. So my understanding is special delegations only utilised when when we're in recess, so there's no committee or council meeting. What we took it as, and Mick and I had a chat about this yesterday, was that we send notification to councillors about when an application is lodged on the major assessment process. We are then proposing that we send another email saying it's ready to be decided. But our understanding was if the divisional chair and the mayor agree that it can be done by not going to a committee, then it would be done via delegated authority, which would be any officer. So Mick, myself, I think Roger or Lara have those delegations. That was my understanding. I think in terms of the special delegation process, that would still happen as it would normally at this stage. But
exactly as it has for the last decade. It didn't make any adjustment to the special delegation process, and it didn't set a default position. So the recommendation was very clear in that way. So special delegation can only be used, as it has for the last decade plus, in recess period. Outside of that, if there's a major assessment status, you as divisional councillor now get the choice to decide if it goes to committee or not, and anyone else can raise it with you or the mayor if they wish to.
Just one follow on then, and then I'll be clear. What do we say, what is recess? So I've been in the role just over a year. I don't see recess. I see like community consultation. Yes. So what is recess? Is it between a committee meeting and a council meeting? Is it the period we have in December at the end when we have a last council meeting to the January? What is recess?
Christmas and the winter break.
Sorry?
Christmas, so the 7 weeks over Christmas.
So we only can do special delegation for the major assessment application from Christmas through to January?
We only do special delegation for all applications at Christmas or in the winter break, because the rest of the year it meets every month.
So then does that mean that all major assessment applications then just, it's business as usual except for that period at the end of the year? Yeah, and it isn't just me that's confused. I've had different opinions from various councillors.
So let's step back. So first of all, there's been 9 major assessment status applications in the last 5 years. So out of 2,200 MCUs, OTHs, ROLs, so the major applications that you'll deal with. So 2,200 in the last 5 years. 9 of those were given major assessment status, which the only change it makes is that it was automatically coming to committee based on that resolution in 2015. So unlike any other DA, so any other impact DA that you've had where you make the decision if it goes to committee or not, the only practical difference was that major assessment status meant it automatically had to go to committee. Special delegation, the point 2 in that recommendation remains exactly the same as it did in 2015. No change to it. So special delegation can only be used when council is in recess, holiday period, whatever you want to call it, but that period over Christmas and winter time where there's a 6-week break normally, where there's no committee in between. So it most definitely didn't create a default position of that every major assessment goes to special delegation. It clearly says the opposite to that. The only other change we did make was the point 3, which was actually a really good addition of that you all get the special delegation report now when there is one, which, as I pointed out, there's only been 3 special delegations in the last 2 years. Councillor Gates.
Thank you. And I think the Mayor made it clear when we queried it that if any other councillor other than the divisional councillor had a wish for it to come to committee, they could approach the Mayor, and on our behalf he would ensure that that happened. Yeah. So that was a good outcome. I just wanted to make a point about recess. All of our breaks historically were called recess. And so it's not just in the winter and at the end of the year, it's every break that council has. They've basically been renamed and they appear in the calendar often. It used to have a recess period and then a community consultation period. It seems to have all been encompassed into the one thing now. So I think there's many weeks a year where special del could kick in if necessary. And you're right, Councillor Hamill, there's been no change in that regard.
No change in that regard at all. And it's only because in 2015, we used to have nearly fortnightly planning committees, so there was never as big a gap in between. Going to monthly committee rounds created that gap. And so the rest of the year, because like at Easter time, there's a recess period, but it's only 2 weeks. So there's no need for it in between because you can defer it over. With the only time that we've considered special del in the last 2 years has been at Christmas or in the winter break, and that 3 times I mentioned.
Just had one more question, if you don't mind, about major assessment. So an application has to be assessed as a major project in order to be considered by major assessment, but I am aware of the workload in Division 1, 2 and 3 perhaps being overly significant and some applications being referred to major assessment for consideration or for the assessment process because of the workload that's so high in other areas. So once they're assessed by that team, that doesn't qualify them as a major project, does it?
No. Yep.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, we've had the major assessment team for quite a long time. Some of you'd remember Jim Webb, I think, was the officer who started that process. The major assessment policy has since been retired, but we still have the major assessment team, and on our website we kind of have a bit of information for applicants if they want to have their DA assessed by the major assessment team. So we have a little criteria around it. It's a certain amount of dwellings or a certain amount of capital investment would make you eligible. And then I guess the deal is if you want to work with our major assessment team, the applicant commits to having pre-lodgement workshops so you can kind of iron out all the issues and try and get those bigger complex applications going through our system in a more efficient way. But there's no legislated or mandated thing that says something's a major assessment or not. So Councillor Gates, you're quite correct in us just utilising the resources we've got most efficiently. Sometimes the major assessment team will pick up applications elsewhere in the city that aren't major assessments just because they've got the time and resources, while other teams might be a bit stretched or might find it difficult to take on that extra work. So we do that just to, use our resources efficiently. but they don't automatically qualify as a major assessment just because that team assesses the DA.
Thank you. And can you confirm then that it's at council's discretion if an applicant simply applies for a major project, it would be at council's discretion whether that qualifies or not at an applicant's discretion?
Yep, through the chair. Just to clarify, when you say councils, that's usually myself or an officer saying, "Yeah, we'll take that on." Yeah,
that's what.
Yeah, so we agree. Not every applicant will get the benefit of having the major assessment team assess their DA. If they don't want to work with officers prior to lodgement, we just say we'll just lodge your DA as you normally would. Okay. And they're all assessed the same way. They're all assessed against the Act. No, nothing different.
Thank you. I, as you all know, I spoke strongly against this because I think it just is, to the community, it looks a step backward in terms of transparency, and that was my only concern, that because it's a big project plan for the city, that the community may think that it's not as transparent as it could be. So that remains my only concern.
Noting that it's been used 9 times in 5 years and that it doesn't reflect the size of many projects, that the single largest tower built in the city was code accessible in Service Paradise, so that doesn't receive major assessment status. Got to admit, on reflection, I think if I would have taken more of a chance, I just would have got rid of major assessment status completely, because it's obviously not being used by the industry for a reason, because it means no other difference. It doesn't, statutory timeframes for assessment are still the same. It provides no other changes or incentives apart from you have pre-lodgement meetings beforehand. Councillor Young?
A question. Mick mentioned that the policy had been retired. Yep. Can you explain, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can't recall the exact date, but I think when the city was going through a bunch of old policies, the major assessment policy from, I'm not sure of when, it was early 2000s perhaps, was one of a number of policies that was retired.
So without that policy, how do you make a determination that something qualifies for major assessment status or not?
Through the chair, so as I mentioned, we have some information on our public website to say
there are some guidelines.
There's some sort of criteria, but it's really just a kind of, in practice, how it works is an applicant says, look, I've got this project coming up, I'd like it assessed by the major assessment team, and we look at it and go, well, yeah, look, it's big enough because it's met one of those criteria, and if you're happy to work with the officers, we will gladly take it through the major assessment team.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks, Chair.
So just Councillor Martin.
Thanks,
remembering,
Chair.
I'm going to give this, but we're rehatching a decision of council, so let's get to a question on it.
My question on the special delegation, and because we talked about, I know there's no change through that council motion, but I just sort of take the opportunity to query about the previous GBI that had raised around us reviewing special delegation and just looking at that.
I think you've been given this answer 3 times, that there's a report coming back still.
Yes, and the response to officers was that it would come back to a GAF committee, but I think it's opportune, and given it keeps coming up here, I think I would request that it comes back to planning, because that is the resolution.
Yeah, so I don't think we can, because it's a delegation. Delegations are dealt with in GAF.
That's correct.
What I was
Through
thinking.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. So, Councillor Fowler, because you raised the original question, we're seeking some clarity. So, do you understand that in terms of major assessment status is treated exactly the same as every other DA in your division now, and the decision if it is referred to committee or not sits with you, but any councillor can make the request of you or the mayor for it to come to committee also? Does that provide the clarity you were seeking on what went through council?
That was. Thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah. And since we're on the public record with it, and given the commentary of others, to be very clear, it did not absolve council of any powers and did not set a default position of anything going straight to the special delegation. Special delegation continues only to be used in the very limited circumstance when there is a long enough gap between committee meetings that to meet statutory timeframes to decide an application that it is used. Any other questions on the record? In that case, we will close committee at 11:42. Thank you for your time.